Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So today we have a something a little bit different. It's a SYMA X8G quadcopter, and this is a review model from GearBest.com. I'll have the links in the description of where you could pick this up if you're interested. This is kind of SYMA's first delve into kind of a larger, maybe phantom size, 350 size quadcopter. Not quite bringing it up to hobby grade. Still has brushed motors and stuff, but still it's kind of like their progression into maybe possibly more of a hobby grade RC scene. What we're going to be doing today is basically showing you everything you get in the box, setting it up, taking it out to the park, doing some flights, and then coming back to the bench, going through the pros and cons, afterthoughts, and just kind of telling you everything I thought about it. So basically what we get in the box, let's go through what we get in the box real quick. First off, this version here, the G version, stands for a camera version, I guess. This version comes with the camera. It's basically this supposed to be 1080p camera. There's a little switch on the side. You can switch it between 720 and 1080p. Takes a little micro SD card. Looks like they give you one in the box here. Let's open that up real quick. So it's just a camera that you mount on the bottom of the craft, and let's just see real quick what they give us. 4 GB. So they give you a little 4 GB micro SD card that pops in there, and it's just kind of a really light plain Jane cam. And we'll also test. I'll go ahead and put some footage up when we do our park test. I'll put some footage up on how that performs as well. But as far as the mount goes, it looks like it's got kind of a little bit of a rubber dampening in between this plastic, which is kind of neat. It's actually got its own little vibration dampening. And so it looks like the way you'd plug this in is just basically plug it right into the top of the camera using this micro USB port, and then slide the camera right into the front there, right into the bottom. So it's facing forward. So okay, so the camera and the cord are in the box. Let's bring out everything else. You've got your, looks like you've got some extra prop, I guess you could call these prop nuts, and then the prop caps here. Little bag with those. You got a little bag of tools, screws. This is a screwdriver, and then your USB micro SD card reader to go into your computer to look at your video files. You also got a charger, and this time this is kind of a first for me. It actually has a US plug built in. And then they also give you a Euro adapter just in case you're in Europe. And this is the actual charger itself, the part that charges the battery. This is just the plug-in. And then here's the charger. You would plug that in there and plug your battery in to this port here to charge. Speaking of the battery, it's tucked away, hidden inside the craft. So let's pull that out really quick. And this one looks like it has a different type of connector, not the normal JST or XT60 connectors. It's got these bullet connectors here, which, you know, I may need to make my own adapter to charge this on my smart chargers, or I may eventually just cut the plugs and change it to XT60 plug. But anyway, it's a balanced, looks like a 2S 7.4 volt 2000 mAh battery. And they give you the prop guards, so you get some black prop guards for this nice looking silver craft. 4 black prop guards, so if you're beginning, you're going to want to put these on just in case you do a few crashes, which you will. If this is your first craft, you're going to have a few crashes, and you're going to want to have these on so you don't break things and break props. They give you an actual total of 8 propellers. So 4 to get you started, and then another 4 to also help out if you start crashing and breaking propellers, which is really good. Usually larger quads like this, they only give you the 4 that are on the actual that come with it. They only give you 4. This one gives you 8. So props to SYMA for giving you an extra set. And then of course you've got your landing gear here. And you got 4 little legs, black legs for your landing gear. And then you've got your instruction manual. So this is going to go through initial setup, what all the controls do on the controller, how to connect your camera, how to connect your safety guard, which would be the prop guards, how to fly, how to connect your battery, how to charge your battery. And funny thing is, it's kind of near the back of the book. It shows you how to put on your props. Now this is kind of interesting. This is kind of an interesting way they decided to mount their propellers. It's kind of, it looks like it's a little bit of a tedious way to do things. Instead of the normal just screw on or self-tightening props, they have this little plastic clip-on nut with this little looks like a little kind of a little pin that you'd find in like RC car axles to put on the propeller. So, and then you've got your list of all the parts and a breakdown of the parts in the manual. So last thing in the box is the controller. It's kind of a cheaper type of controller, larger of course because the craft is larger. It takes 1, 2, 3, 4 AA batteries, and it's got 2 blank slots here. It clips in okay. May need to maybe bend this a little bit just to make it snap in a little better so this doesn't end up falling off. But anyway, basically you've got your the top left trigger is going to be your rate mode. So for low and high speed, it looks like this may only have 2 modes of flight, low and high. We'll check that in the field. And then if you hold this in, you're going to go into your headless mode, which would allow the craft to spin in any direction when you're yawing and then pull the stick back to come back to you, kind of like most of their quads. And then this top button up here, the top trigger is going to be your flip function. And then of course you've got your pitch and roll. You've got your trims for pitch and roll here, power switch, your yaw, and your throttle here. And then this one basically is going to be your fine tuning and also mode 1 and 2. Okay, so basically if you want to switch between mode 1 and 2 where you want to switch the throttle, I think you would hold this in one direction and before you turn it on, it'll switch the modes for you. So you can have mode 1 and a mode 2 control. And then this here, which looks like the throttle trim, this little button here, this will actually be your photo and your video. So up for photo probably and down for video while you're in the air flying. Anyway, so that's the controller. Let's go ahead and get everything mounted up on this thing before we get outside for our flight. Okay, so we got the battery on the charger, and first I'm going to put the legs on. Looks like they just pop in just like this. And they've got 2 screws for each leg. Okay, so it looks like the screws with this large type of head are going to be the landing gear screws here. Okay, cool. So we got all the legs on. Just screwed those on. 2 screws per leg. Got those on securely. And you know what? This thing, it looks like it probably could hold some kind of FPV gear. So I'm thinking eventually maybe I'll do some tests with this and try to mount some, depending on the range it gets with the control. Maybe doing a range extension mod and also some FPV mods to this just to see what we can do to it. So stay tuned for me possibly doing those kinds of videos as well. But anyway, getting back to the setup, we're going to put the props on now, and it looks like these guys they have this interesting lock nut kind of deal where you twist and it just basically unlocks from this pin. You've got to take the pin out, slide the whole mechanism up. Now these things, this is kind of scaring me, these little tiny pins, these seem like they're going to get lost. So just keep that in mind that you're going to want to definitely keep track of these little pins. And then you can see here there's a B on the actual motor here, and this is an A prop. So we want to find the B props for the correct counterclockwise and clockwise orientation of the prop. So I'm putting a B prop on, and I'm putting this little lock nut thing down past this little pinhole, and then I'm pushing this little pin inside, and it kind of just twists, and you should hear a little snap to lock it. There we go. So basically that little plastic thing is locked in. The prop's not going to come off. There's no screwing or anything you need to do. And then all we need to do here is put on our little, looks like this could be an optional beautification type of thing. Put on one of these little prop cones, shaft cones here. You just push this right on, it looks like. There we go. So nothing special, but that's it. So we're going to do that to all 4 motors, put all 4 props on. Okay, so we're putting on the last prop, and while I was putting them on, I kind of had noticed a little bit of a problem, and it was because you want to slide the pin in. When you put the plastic thing on, you want to slide the pin in on one side. One side is lower than the other, so just make sure you're sliding the pin in through that one side notch and not the other. Otherwise the pin won't go in correctly. Keep in mind that there is some grease kind of around the shaft, the prop shaft. So what I'd recommend is getting like a paper towel and going ahead and wiping this down throughout the process, or after you're done at least, just to keep the oil off the props, the grease off the props, because that'll start collecting dirt and dust, and you don't want them to also be partially off balance because of a little glob of grease on there. So go ahead and clean all those off. Okay, so got the batteries in the controller and ready to fly. So let's go out to the park, get some flight with this, get some hat cam video of it flying, also get some onboard video with the camera it comes with, and see how that all works out. And then come back to the bench and give it a final pros and cons, final afterthoughts, and see what we thought. So to start camera recording, right now the camera has a green light on it. You can push down on the controller, and the light's red and blinking. Let's see how it does. I'm going to go immediately to rate 2, a high rate. It's fighting the wind pretty good. Yeah, so this thing can definitely fight some wind. See how the lift is? Full throttle maximum height. Ooh. Okay, so it's really windy over there. Had a little bit of trouble fighting the wind over there. And I think I'm going to test the yaw rates in the house. I don't think I'm going to test it in this wind. So I'm going to do a house flight as well. We'll go ahead and do a range test. See how far we can get. I'm about 100 feet now. $200 feet. Alright, so I'm all the way across the park, maybe close to 300 feet, and it seems fine. Go ahead and try the headless mode. Headless mode was just pushing in, holding in the left trigger until you hear the beeps. Yeah, it looks like headless mode is working. I'm going ahead and yawing and pulling the right stick back to me. Left, right, forward. So holding the right trigger should do a return to home. Yeah, so the return to home's working great. Comes back and it's the bearing you launched from. And as soon as you put in some input on the right stick, it'll come out of return to home modes. Let's try a flip. This also does a flip maneuver. So hold in the right trigger, push to the left, there's a flip. Push forward, there's a flip. Right, flip. Cool, so flips work good. Okay, so wind's down a little bit. Let's go ahead and do a TX off test real quick. So I'm turning off the TX now. And it just basically will come down and fall. And it looks like it's trying to... Okay, so that's good to know. And I'm going to start taking a video one more time by pressing down. You hear 2 beeps on the throttle trim, and that starts the camera. Seems like it really does have quite a good pitch and roll when it's in the high rate, and it's fighting the wind really good, so no problems there. Seems nice and smooth too. It's probably around 20 mile per hour winds right now with some gusts, maybe a little higher, and it seems to be performing really well. Getting some altitude. Comes down nice and smooth. Okay, so that's when it just dropped. So it gives you a good, quite a bit of time to land once the lights start blinking. Turn off the video, and the camera will go back to green, indicating the video's off. Cool. Well, that was a fun flight. So let's take this thing in. I'm gonna do a little bit of a house flight and do some timings on the battery, and then take it back to the bench and do our final thoughts, pros and cons, and see how this thing did. Okay, so we're in the house with the SYMA X8G, and I wanted to just show you guys kind of, I didn't get a chance in the park to really do a good TX turnoff test, but what it does is it basically kind of cuts it to half throttle and slowly drops and just kind of lands itself. So unlike other mini quads, this one, it isn't a full smart quad. It's still in the kind of the toy grade, but it's so large that if it did cut its throttle like the mini quads did, it would probably kind of smash itself if you were flying around. So the failsafe they made it do is just kind of cut its throttle to maybe half throttle, so it slowly comes down. It does still hit a little bit hard, but not hard enough to really seem like it's going to break anything. So I'm just going to show you kind of that really quick. While we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and just recalibrate the gyro and the compass. So bottom left sticks till you see flashing, and then it sticks to the bottom right. So that was either the gyro or the compass, and then to the bottom right is going to be the one or the other, the gyro or compass or accelerometer. So anyway, let's test it out. So that's its full yaw rate, and I'm going to go into the high rate mode. Still has the same yaw rate. And here's what it does when you turn off the controller. Turning off controller now. So you see how it just kind of drops there? And it keeps the throttle up. So that's why in the park it was kind of kept trying to turn its props, because it doesn't shut the throttle off. It doesn't know when it's touching the ground, so it just keeps the throttle like at half speed. So that's why when it flipped over at the park, when I tried this test, the props were still trying to turn. So definitely got to be careful. It doesn't have any kind of crash detection that shuts off the props, which is unfortunate. So really be careful with that. Just if it flips over and you're trying to pick it up to turn it back over, go ahead and hit that switch on the bottom to turn it off first. Anyway, when it does go into that kind of self-landing mode, that half throttle mode, you just have to turn your controller back on and go ahead and redo the bind with the up and down throttle, and it's ready to go again. So from a hover to full throttle, You can see the lift is really good. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys a couple of those things that I couldn't show you really in the park because of the wind. But anyway, it's got really good thrust, which is pretty amazing. So let's go ahead and take this thing back to the bench and do a final pros and cons and afterthoughts and see how it did. Hey guys, welcome back. So we're back from testing the SYMA X8G out in the park, doing some house flight, and we got to test out all the modes and just see how well it performed. And I'm going to go through some pros and cons now. So first off, it's got great lift and power. It is a 7.4 volt LiPo battery, so that 7.4 volts compared to like 3.7 volt really gives it better lift, especially for this 350 size quad. You kind of need that voltage to lift it. Second thing was the high and low rate were pretty good. It had two rates of flight, 2 speeds. The low rate was good for like a no wind situation. When I was testing it in the park, it was really windy, so I had to switch to the high rate for sure, and it did fight the wind very well. I tried a transmitter off test at the park, and it was a little too windy for that, just to see what would happen, and it does kind of go into a slow kind of drop maneuver, and it did hit the ground, flip over. And unfortunately, the props, they kind of keep trying to spin when it does flip over or crash. So that's kind of a con in my book. I wish maybe they would have made some kind of fail-safe just to shut the props off if they got stuck. It could be dangerous if that happens. Although, you know, I did turn off the controller, but just in case maybe like a kid is flying it and the batteries fall out of the controller for some reason, it would be cool to know that when it did crash, the propellers would stop. So I did have to turn it off on the bottom of the quad first in order to get those props to stop before I picked it up. Of course, you could always just turn back on the transmitter and rebind it and you have control again. One of the things I kind of didn't really like was that proprietary prop shaft assembly where they have the pin there. It just seems like it's a little bit weak, and also I did go through some pretty major crashes with it and nothing broke on the propellers and the shafts and stuff. So I guess it's strong. It's just a little bit weird how they use that tiny little metal shaft, but at least they give you spares. They give you some spares in the box with it, just in case you lose those. And the durability of this thing was really good. You didn't see in the video, but I did just when I was initially testing in the house. I tried to do a flip, and it actually hit the ceiling because it needs more space to flip. It was kind of dangerous. I'm not sure why I did it in the house, but I just wanted to try it. And it actually gives it a little bit of a throttle boost when you first hit that flip. It went up, hit the ceiling, and then just fell probably about 10-15 feet and hit the carpet, and nothing was wrong. It was totally fine. Nothing broke. So it is very durable. As for the camera that's on it, it is a pretty decent 1080p camera. I didn't try the 720 setting, just the 1080p setting it came with. And it does do a pretty good job. It's a really light camera, so I like how they kind of incorporated the powering on to the craft, so you don't have to have a separate battery for the camera. The quality was decent, not the best, and I also did notice, even though it does have this a little bit of a vibration damper in the mount, there was still some shake and jello, a little bit of shake and jello in the video, as you could see. I also went ahead and did a quick test flight with this Amcov 5000S camera, which is kind of a replica to a GoPro, and it did fit right in the bracket. I'll go ahead and do that real quick, put it in there for you so you can see how it fits. So it did fit right in the bracket, and it also was able to lift it. There you go. So it fits right in there. It's not loose at all. I'm not sure how other cameras would go, but it fits in perfectly. And if you actually flip it upside down, it actually has these little push buttons in the plastic, so you can actually, depending on what camera you have, you can actually start and stop with these buttons down here. So that's kind of neat. They incorporated those little indents to push buttons in the bottom of the case here, the camera case. So it could lift it, but I noticed that it was this. If you're gonna lift a camera that's this heavy, you're gonna have definitely lessen your flight time a lot, and your throttle's you're gonna have to push your throttle a lot more to get the same kind of lift. So really quick, I'm just gonna weigh these two just to show you guys how much the difference is in weight. You're gonna be using this cord with the camera, so let's weigh it with the camera, actually, with the cord. So 36 grams with this camera setup, the stock camera setup, and then this Amcov 5000S GoPro replica with its battery inside and a SD card, 79 grams. So definitely over twice as heavy. So you're definitely going to feel that in flight time and in the way it handles and the lift you get. I noticed that maybe flight time was about half of what I would have got without this heavy camera, with just the stock camera. And then of course getting to the modes all worked well. The headless worked well. The return to home worked well. They even worked very well in the house as well. I'm not sure why you'd want to fly this in the house, but I would definitely not recommend something this big flying in the house. Definitely stick with outside or park flying with this guy here. I guess I would have liked to see maybe a little bit of a higher yaw rate in this. It seemed like the first and second speed flight rates on the controller, when you push that, the yaw rate would stay the same. So I would have liked to see maybe a little bit of faster yaw rate on the second rate. Since it is going faster, it is nice to be able to turn it a little faster as well. I thought that was a little slow on the second high speed rate when flying, so it would have been nice if they sped up the rate a little bit, or even incorporate. I know SYMA doesn't usually incorporate 3 rate modes, but I really wish they would maybe have 3 rate modes, just like a low, medium, and high, like a lot of the other quads are doing. So maybe they'll eventually catch on and add a 3rd rate mode to their quadcopters. But anyway, getting to flight times with the camera, with the stock camera, basically 11 minutes until the low voltage lights would kick on, and then another 30 seconds until it would kind of force landing drop. And then without the cam, just naked without the cam, when without the camera bracket here, which is also cool. I like the ability to just quickly remove this. That's a really good feature, just to slide that right off. It's worth mentioning. So without the cam, just naked like this, it was 13 minutes of flight time and another 30 seconds until landing after the low voltage lights. So you're getting another 2 minutes if you take off this camera and this camera bracket and the cord altogether. And then of course, touching on the range, control range of the craft, I did kind of do a not really range test, but in the park it was so windy I didn't want to get up there too high or go too far, just in case. I didn't want the wind to carry it away if I lost control. So I did get about 300 feet. I was able to test it about a football field length, 100 yards, 300 feet, and it didn't drop out of range at that range. So anyway guys, just to wrap this up, my final thoughts on this, I think it is a good kind of an in-between. Like if somebody's used to flying small mini quads, starting off with like a nano or micro, working their way up to like maybe a mini quad in the X5C realm, and then they want to maybe try a larger quad but not really in advance, don't want to spend a lot of money, and they just want to see if they can handle the size and just maybe practice with the size before they go up and spend a bunch of money on a smart quad that's going to cost them $300 and up. I think this is a good choice. It does have brushed motors, so I'm not sure how long these motors are going to last. And of course, if you end up carrying larger cameras, they definitely won't last as long as if you keep it light with the stock gear here. But overall, pretty good little quad. It works well, and it is a good step up from those other mini quads. So anyway guys, I hope you liked the review, and I hope it helps you to decide if you'd like to get something like this. And please like, subscribe, and comment. And also, again, this was a review model from gearbest.com. I will have the links in the description of where you can pick this up if you're interested. So I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.